Hello, welcome or welcome back. I'm so excited because it is not every day that you get to learn a new skill, but in today's video, we're gonna be learning a new skill. Any guesses as to what we're gonna be doing today? Well, I guess it's probably in the title. We're gonna be learning to knit today. I am so excited about this because knitting has been on my list of things that I wanted to take up in 2025. If you've been around the channel for a minute, you might know that I am an avid crocheter. I'm so excited to add knitting to my repertoire because I know it's just gonna elevate the game so much in terms of creating a me-made wardrobe. I am so excited by the prospect of knitting my own sweaters. Obviously, this winter is gonna be on its way out before I really have much grasp on knitting as a technique, I'm sure, but in gearing up for next fall and next winter, I'm hoping to be knitting my own sweaters. But okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Of course, there are so many options to start with when learning to knit, but I really wanted to try using a knitting kit as a jumping off point. I'm really excited about the kit that I chose, and I actually already opened it, so I'm gonna cut to past summer opening that up. Okay, hello. My knitting kit just arrived in the mail and I'm so excited to open it. I'm very impatient and want to open it, but also wanted to do it on camera. So also, this is my first test run with a brand new camera and I've not tested it out yet, so hopefully it looks okay. This knitting kit comes from Violent Cat Lady, or Jade. She makes super cool knitting kits for a beanie pattern as well as a sweater pattern, I think. And I've been following her on TikTok and Instagram for a little while, and I just felt like this was the perfect way to get into knitting and like try something bite-sized. So I've got one of her beanie kits. So it comes with yarn. You get to choose the color of yarn you want. And then it also comes with this little package, which I believe has knitting needles and a booklet, an instructional booklet. Okay, so it comes with this set of circular needles, and then it also has this whole instructional guide. And one thing I love about this in theory is the guide is written and then it also has QR codes for each step, so you can scan and watch a video of how to complete each step. So very helpful for those of us who are visual learners. Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited. So yeah, I know that I have so much to learn. I am literally starting from ground zero with knitting. I have a crochet background, but I'm not really sure how much that's gonna help me. So definitely a lot to learn for this video. As always, gonna take you along with me and I'm excited. So let's just get started. Learning to cast on was obviously the first step, and this pattern used a long tail cast on. I don't know much about different ways to cast on, but essentially this way involved pulling out a length of working yarn and drawing from that predetermined length to cast on the stitches. It took me a few tries and watching a couple different videos to get the hang of the cast on motion, but I think my background working with yarn and crochet helped me pick it up pretty quickly. Honestly, the biggest challenge here was figuring out exactly how much tail to pull out to get the correct number of stitches. I probably started and restarted 3 or 4 times before getting it right, which was a little bit annoying, but did provide good practice. I'm still not sure I completely understand that part of the technique, so if anyone has tips or tricks for me to use next time, please leave me a comment down below. It is the next day. I have some knitting updates for you. So yesterday, as you saw, it took me a few tries to figure out the cast on situation, but once I figured it out, I was like off and running, and I really expected there to be more setbacks or like confusion or difficulty getting started with the actual knit, but look, we're knitting. We're fully knitting. And it looks a little bit uneven from this side, but what's currently the inside, I think is looking really good and actually like pretty even considering this is my first time knitting. I'm actually so surprised with how quickly it's working up. Definitely using this super bulky yarn is an advantage. I so rarely with crochet use a bulky yarn like this, and I understand now why people like it because it works up very, very quickly. Yeah, I'm actually kind of flabbergasted at how quickly this is going and like how few problems I've encountered along the way. Obviously this, well, maybe not obviously, this pattern is super simple. It's literally I think it's called a 1x1 ribbing. So it's one knit stitch followed by one purl stitch, and then you just repeat in the round. One thing I love about the pattern is instead of having me count the rows, it just says to knit until I reach like a certain length, which I appreciate as someone who doesn't enjoy counting with my knit or my crochet. So yeah, it's going really smoothly, and there's not really much more to say than that. So yeah, that's super exciting. I feel like this hat is honestly going to be done before I know it. At first I was like, okay, let's bank a lot of time for this project because we've never done knitting before. Hopefully I'm not speaking too soon, but honestly I think it's going to go a lot quicker than I first expected it to. So that's great.
And I would say this knitting project did continue to go quickly. I loved that it was something I could work on for a few minutes at a time or pick up while I was watching YouTube. Of course, my technique could probably use some work, and I didn't do the whole thing without making mistakes.
Okay, I think I just jinxed myself by saying that it was going super well and I wasn't having any problems with it. Maybe because I was filming. I think that I just mixed up the knit stitch and purl stitch, like I did them backwards, because if you can see, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this very well, but it's like these nice little braids in a line, and then where I've just been knitting, can you see how like the braids kind of like fall apart at the top? Like they're not continuing the way that they're supposed to. I think that means that I've mixed up my knit and my purl, which is honestly probably good at this point to figure out how to backtrack, because obviously with crochet you just like pull out anything that's gone wrong, but I think with knitting you have to like unknit it or like knit it backwards in order to fix a mistake or go back. So I'm gonna have to look up how to do that now and then hopefully get this back on track.
Thankfully, backtracking was not as confusing as I initially thought. I'm not sure where I heard that it would involve literally knitting backwards, but that's not really the case. You do have to move backwards along the row, but it's more about picking up the last stitch on the left-hand needle and dropping it off on the right-hand needle. I definitely had to backtrack a few times during this project. Usually I would notice that 10 or 12 stitches back I'd mixed up the knit purl pattern. Like I said in the last clip, honestly, I think it was good practice, and thankfully I never had to backtrack too far.
Hi friends! So I have just been knitting away for the last several days. And the hat is coming along. It's looking literally long right now. I have just been knitting away for the past few days, and I haven't filmed like a ton because it's pretty much all the same. I've just been knitting in the round and doing this and doing a 1x1 ribbing, so like one knit, one purl, one knit, one purl, over and over again. And luckily the hat is coming along great. I think that it's looking really good, if I do say so myself. But yeah, this video might be kind of short because I feel like it's gonna be boring to just have like endless footage of me knitting the same thing over and over again, but that's okay. I did want to sit down for a couple minutes today and just like debrief, check in, see where we're at, because I haven't chatted to you in a minute. This is my progress so far. The pattern has this 1x1 rib until the hat's length reaches 12 inches, which feels really long. But I guess when you think about it, like you're gonna be folding up the bottom. And so yeah, it's gonna look more hat-like when you do that. But it feels really long before you even start to decrease. So yeah, it's just been a lot of the same. But I am really pleased with how it's going. And I've been a little bit surprised at how well it's going. It's definitely not perfect. Like my stitches aren't a perfect tension across the board or anything like that. But for my first knitting project, I'm pretty happy with how it's looking, because I remember my like first crochet projects were a mess and like didn't turn out anything like I expected them to. And I always felt like knitting was going to be harder. I don't know, that was just the impression that I had. I'd seen other people do like try to knit videos or knitting for the first time videos, and they had like more issues than I feel like I'm having. That feels like I'm talking myself up, but I'm really not. I just am surprised at like how naturally it's coming. And I think some of that definitely has to do with like years of crochet. So I have kind of a basic understanding of how to loop yarn around and like how to make, you know, yarn knots. I don't know what I'm saying, but like I have a basic understanding of like how to work with yarn, and knitting is just like a different type of working with yarn. So I definitely at the beginning watched a lot of videos, both the videos that were provided with the pattern and a lot of other people's videos to like get the hang of what I was doing. But I really like that for this beginner pattern, it's like knit, purl, so you really get a chance to just like practice those very basic stitches. And what else was I gonna say? It's definitely, like I said, it's not perfect. Like not all the stitches are the same. It definitely looks more homemade than something you would buy in a store. But to be fair also, the yarn is quite like variegated, is that the right word? And I really like that. It feels very natural. This is a 100% wool fiber. I love that there's some really nice color variation. It's not all like the same shade of blue, and the thickness of the yarn does really vary as well. So I think even if you were knitting this like quote unquote perfectly, it wouldn't come out like every stitch is exactly the same, and I kind of love that. And so far I'm really liking the pattern. Like I mentioned, I like that it's really basic because it is marketed as a beginner pattern, and I think it's doing a really good job of that. And once I hit 12 inches of what I've been doing, then we start decreasing to make like the top of the hat. But yeah, so far the pattern has been great and like very easy to follow. I like that there are videos included with it. So all is going well. And I have to say, this morning I was literally starting to look at like sweater patterns, which I'm definitely getting too far ahead of myself, but I feel like I've really caught the knitting bug. Like I love to crochet, but this feels kind of like where it's at least for me right now. I think like the best way to describe it from my brain is like, with crochet, I feel like I can be endlessly creative and make whatever I want with it. But with knitting, there's an elegance to it that I really appreciate. Like it feels a little bit more structured and I don't know, just elegant. And like, there's nothing wrong with either of them. They just feel very different to me. So yeah, is that it? I think that was probably it. I would be really curious to know if you are either a knitter and or a crocheter, like what's been your favorite thing to make? What do you see as the differences between the two? Because I do feel like they're different, but they get lumped into the same category a lot of the time. So yeah, I would be really curious to hear if you knit and or crochet, what do you feel are the differences? And like, not necessarily pro cons, but you know, differences between the two. Sliding okay. It is the next day and I have like an actual update. I kept working on the hat for quite a while yesterday, and look at how freaking long it is. I kind of can't believe that this is going to be a hat because it does feel quite long. We've got 12 inches here, which means we can start decreasing, which is good because this is the remaining ball of yarn, and I was beginning to get scared that I was gonna like run through all the yarn before finishing the hat. So I think this is gonna be like pretty much a one skein project, like bang on, which is great. Okay, I do need the instructions on how to decrease. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so there's actually only 2 rows of decreases, which is good because again, with the amount of yarn left, I was worried about how many decreasing rows I was gonna have to do, but there's only 2 rows and I think it makes sense. I mean, I probably should watch the video just to like make sure I know what I'm doing, but also I might not because I think it makes sense. I mean, it's very similar to how you would do decreases in crochet. It's just knitting instead. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna give that a little go and maybe I'll time lapse you and let you know how it goes. We've done it. This is the final results before I take it off the needles. It still just looks like a big tube, but I don't know how easy it is to tell. Probably you can see it, like if you also knit and know what to look for, you can kind of see where stitches have been combined to decrease the number of stitches. If you don't know what decreasing is, that's what it is. It's just decreasing the number of stitches in a row. Now we get to take it off the needles, which seems very simple from the instructions. This pattern was great in terms of using all the yarn. Like this is the remnants of the yarn that I have. Okay, so I've got my darning needle here and I'm just gonna go through all of the loops essentially and take the needles out as I do it. I'll try to set it up here so that you can see what I'm doing. Basically just using the darning needle as if it were the other knitting needle and like going through and lifting each stitch off of the left needle. Which I don't know, there might be a more efficient way to do this, but this is the way it's working, so this is the way I'm doing it. Okay, needles are free. Now, here's the top of the hat, and we get to cinch it closed. Look at how pretty it is at the top. It's like a little star. It's actually quite pretty. It's a hat. It's a long hat, but it's a hat. All right, so now I'm just gonna weave in this end and the first end, and then it's done. Okay, I will save all of my final thoughts for when it's actually done and I'm wearing it, but so excited. So excited. All right, see you in a minute. We did it. It is all done. I just weaved in the couple of ends and folded it up into a beanie. I'm sorry, I cannot stop looking at myself in the viewfinder. I need to put it away. I'm actually so happy with this hat, especially for it being my first knitting project. I'm kind of impressed with myself. I absolutely loved the pattern by Jade. I think she did a really good job of really distilling a quick and easy beginner pattern. I love that it was one skein of yarn and the whole kit was just perfect for what I wanted. I also am really excited because I've never worked with 100% wool yarn, and this is, I believe, Malabrigo wool, and it's super soft. I really enjoyed working with it. I loved the actual like natural texture of it. Like it felt like a real fiber because it is. And I don't think I ever would have worked with something, well, maybe not ever, but I don't think I would have chosen something like that for my first knitting project had it not been for the kit. And now I'm like wholly converted. Like I don't know that I can go back to acrylic or synthetic blend yarns anymore because I've been so spoiled by this one, and the natural fiber is just so superior. Also, it's so freaking warm. So I definitely think it's gonna do its job as a winter hat in a real winter climate here in Minnesota. Obviously I showed you all the way along, but you actually flip the hat inside out for the final product. So this is the inside of what I was knitting the whole time, and I think the inside looks even better than the outside. The outside, there were some irregularities on this inside, which is now the outside. I feel like it's a lot cleaner and yeah, like more professional. I don't know, definitely not professional, but a lot nicer. I definitely feel like I've caught the knitting bug. Like this morning before I even finished the hat was starting to look at what patterns I want to cast on next and like looking at different knitting needles, different yarns. I think that's probably it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully it was a little insight into what this pattern is like and what this kit is like if you're considering it. I would highly recommend ordering from Jade. I had a really nice experience, so thank you so much. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing because the engagement really helps push my channel out to other people like you. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up because it'll let me know to maybe make more knitting content in the future. We'll see. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I hope that whatever project you're working on is coming along nicely. All right, thanks so much. Bye.